big mass shooting in Highland Park. And, you know, obviously, like, these things happen so frequently now. We just have, like, this crazy thing we go through, cycle we go through. But one of the things Adriana brought up that I thought was really interesting, and in quick Googling found a lot of it. And I, again, going back to my media criticism that we will get to later in the show, you know, the right, like, everyone embarks on this, like, immediate disinformation campaign now. So it's like, you know, we do talk about gun control, but then we immediately have people who are elected in powerful positions trying to, like, deny the reality of what is happening. And so, like, two things that I pulled up and that I sent out for this were, so yeah, this is from the American Defamation League, I think is who the ADL is. But anyway, just talking about how, like, immediately there was, like, a false narrative about, like, the shooting. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene gets out and is starting to say that, like, you know, it was like purposefully done to promote gun control, like really crazy conspiracy theory stuff, which is like going back to like when Alex Jones denied the Sandy Hook shootings and eventually like lost in court on that, the evidence of that. But then also, like, here, where is this NPR article? Why the Highland Park suspect represents a different kind of violent extremism, which I think they changed that headline because it used to say something like, where it was did not, they explicitly said did not have an ideological or political bent to it. And this guy is like wrapped in Trump flags. You know, they've already found him all over the dark web, 4chan, and all these like far right spaces. And so, you know, there's like, we go through this thing with these shootings, and yeah, I mean, I agree that sometimes violence isn't, you know, easily placed in, you know, convenient political boxes. But there definitely is one side of the equation that seems to be doing it a lot more, or perpetuates violence or encourages violence more than other ideologies. And so anyway, I don't know, that's my setup on that. And we're going to get to that later in a non-violence related issue with media coverage. But thoughts, reacts on the July 4th shooting?
Yeah, I mean, my first thing, just right off the top, is like with some of the articles that we're reading, not just the one from the Anti Defamation League, but we have another one that's from like NPR. They go into a portion that talks about mass shooter culture.
Yeah.
It's and you see common tropes between every single one of these mass shooters. In some isolated incidents, they start to go away from what the I guess average mass shooter looks like, because I didn't know you can say that we have an average mass shooter. But again, they usually tend to be younger white guys, usually in their mid-20s, who are flocking themselves onto the internet by things like 4chan and, you know, a lot of these entities
Reddit,
where they're showing Reddit, yeah, like really gory content. But then one thing that this article really does mention specifically is an emphasis on aesthetics over ideology. And they're putting themselves in these boxes where it's like cool to be a young person who's involved in like these, as it says, like Columbine style, like music videos. Like they're it's weird. Like it's honestly like it's egregious. But the scary part about it is like we can't really tell somebody's mental health just from, you know, examining somebody over the internet. The other thing on top of which is like, you know, and I mean, this is just kind of my thing, is like getting down to the root of the problem. And we'll talk about this more whenever we speak on about Jalen Walker in a moment. But really, there is a gun glorification culture on the internet. And on top of that, like it becomes like this bubble in a box where all they do is just hear from other folks who are just like, I'm down about this too. Like, I'm oppressed about this too. You know, one of the things that it mentions particularly about this guy who does the shooting is that he made his own music video of him, like, it's animated and like shooting at cops and all this sort of stuff. And so it's just like they, in their brains, like this is like legit and right and something to do.
So where I'm at though is because that was going to be the next thing I would tie into it is like every single person that I know who is obsessed with like gun culture and is into like just more and more guns for the sake of guns is pretty much a far right conservative. And if you look at like the NRA, who did, you know, decades of agitprop around guns and glorifying it and changing that culture, like the NRA almost exclusively supports the Republican Party and conservative ideology. So it's like, I don't understand how you could say that like this culture of mass shooters and all that stuff is somehow divorced from this like decades of propaganda building up the gun culture, and how guns are like an accessory or super cool, or that violence is somehow, I mean, you know, Sarah Palin got in trouble back when she ran for vice president of like putting out an ad where they were putting targets, you know, shooting targets on political leaders of the other side. So it's like there's only one side that is steeped in that culture, and it's not the left. Anyway, I don't know. I just don't know how you divorce how you write these articles with a straight face that's like, yeah, we just don't know what ideology this guy had. And it's like, well, I mean, if he was a gun culture obsessed person, pretty far right?
But the far righters actually want to put it on us, though.
Right, and which is even like to me more dishonest, because it's like
they're saying, like, you know, this ADL article like goes on with like Marjorie Taylor Greene commenting and saying, like, basically putting out fabricated misinformation, like these graphics of like the mass shooter in like a psychiatric ward, which is like it's just blatantly untrue information.
Thanks for watching our video. Please give it a like and hit that subscribe button for more content. If you want to engage with us, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram.